Which movie that opened 10 days ago has already made nearly $400 million, according to Variety magazine? It's a witch movie, Wicked for Good. This movie is chock full of parallels to modern life and society. It's horrendable what the parallels are to, but we'll dig into those as we go along. So, welcome to the Thing About Witch Hunts. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. Today we're going to discuss the new film, Wicked for Good. Here is your spoil alert warning. We're going to dig right in there and pull out all the layers of this wonderful film.
We're definitely going to dig deep, but why are we talking about this today, Sarah?
We've created a space here where we have talked about beliefs, magical beliefs, religious beliefs, supernatural beliefs, witches, who's oppressed, and popular belief and culture all around witches. So this hits all of those bullets.
And we've been researching and synthesizing these themes in the past and present context for a combined almost 300 episodes between our two podcasts, with over 150 specialized experts coming on the show to talk to us about what's going on in the world, why we accuse people of witchcraft, and what we do to them.
Wicked for Good. Josh, what did you love about it?
My favorite thing about this movie, this sequel, is that this focuses on the animal situation. And I love seeing all the animals. I'm a sucker for a talking animal in a movie. So I love Dulcibert. I love Dr. Dillamond. I love all the animals in it. And I am a really big monkey freak, you could probably call me. I just adore monkeys. And even if they're being mean monkeys and flying around scaring people, it's entertaining. So Sarah, what did you think about the movie?
I loved it so much. I loved the aspects that you pointed out. The animal layer and those monkeys, what they are now is amazing. I really love the props. I could go really deep, but the way that they are used to tell the story and enhance the characters, and possibly one of my favorite scenes with props is the sword fight between the wand and the broom of those friends. I just loved it. I loved watching the girls like rough and tumble with their magic.
Yeah. This movie, I love the animals and everything that's about, but it includes a lot of really dark themes, darker than the first movie by a good measure, because it's all about othering and the way that other people get treated in the film. And there's a lot of tragedy and heartache in the movie. You really go through all the feels, but there's a certain scene when we're visiting Nessa Rose that happens, and the song Wicked Witch of the East gets sung, and something bad happens to Bach. Nessa Rose wants to be in Bach's heart, so he's thinking about her all the time, and he wants her and not Glinda, because he's threatening to go to Glinda's wedding to tell her how he really feels about her. And Nessa Rose loves Bach and adores him, and she wants him for her own. She really keeps him sort of in captivity and doesn't let him go anywhere while he's in her employ. But he refuses to love her, and he stays loving Glinda. So Nessa Rose wants to fill his heart with her. But what she does, she picks up the grimoire and starts trying to read it, but she's mispronouncing the words, and the spell turns bad. It shrinks Bach's heart. And so Elphaba, to save Bach, turns him into a form where he doesn't need a heart. She turns him into the Tin Man. So what do you feel about that, Sarah?
It was very tragic. I wasn't sure how that was going to unfold in the film. Listening to that song was informative. Like ahead of time when I was listening to the soundtrack before I saw the film, I knew something bad was going to happen. Now I've read the book too. So, I mean, I knew something bad was going to happen. But I find it really interesting that they open that, and Bach has clearly stayed very attentive to Governor Throp. He's been there for her. It appears that he's there at his own will, but then we realize that she is keeping him captive. And what brought him there to start? It was sympathy. He was trying to please Glinda, who he is truly in love with. But Nessa Rose didn't need his sympathy to be a strong woman and to make up her mind and to bloom. So he was losing out in so many ways, and that was very tragic to see. Plus, his kind was under persecution.
Yeah. And he gets so angry about his transformation. He really doesn't like being a Tin Man. He blames Elphaba for ruining his life.
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk more about that.
I really want to get into this representation of witches, how the movie portrays the archetype of the witch in multiple ways. It's different because there's different women with power in this movie.
One of the ways, and it's really part of what we experience here in this real world, is the perception of women as witches and individuals as a witch. They really use that lens. The people of Oz, the animals, particular characters, are they perceiving others as a witch?
Yeah, and we witness how rumors get spread about witchcraft. It's the same in the real world. There'll be a rumor that somebody in the village practices witchcraft who most likely does not. And if something bad happens, then that person is going to get blamed because they're perceived to be the witch.
Yeah, and it also, Wicked for Good, it really shows how rumors are intentionally used to oppress and to stir up fear in a group.
Yeah, it talks about how groups of people can be manipulated with speech, actions, just to believe these rumors. You can twist words and actions and make it look like somebody's being a wicked witch.
Choices are made sometimes that other people don't understand. And I felt like I saw that happening in Oz, that choices that others were making, that, well, Elphaba specifically, choices she made, it reinforced this narrative that she was the Wicked Witch. So people using others' choices that they may not understand against them.
Yeah. There's one other aspect here that I want to talk about is the propaganda of the witch. Madame Morrible is a propagandist. When Elphaba writes "Our wizard lies in the sky, in the cloud," she changed "Our wizard lies" to "Oz dies" to intimidate the crowd, and it worked. They started running. They're in pandemonium. Yeah. They're screaming.
Yeah, she's like, Elphaba's a threat and a traitor. She just said Oz is going to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That means all of you.
Yeah. The film used the reflection of mirrors constantly. It was almost disorienting. I'm like, am I looking at a character in a mirror or am I looking at the character? But I felt like that reflection was really about the witch too. Like, who are we actually seeing? Who is the character seeing?
Yeah, that's a very important point because, like, we know her backstory and her whole life story. So we know that in her heart, she thinks that she's a good person. She's trying to do good, but she's perceived as wicked and evil.
Yeah. And then, you know, on the opposite side of that coin, you've got perfect Glinda. Everyone sees her as perfect. She knows how she's viewed. But when she looks in the mirror, does she see something different? No, she sees what they see.
But we see that she is a flawed character like everybody else in the real world, that nobody's perfect, even though she gets pretty close with her goodness towards the end, especially
Yeah.
of the
So
movie.
isn't that interesting? So they put those mirrors in the scenes and to message us, but also the song that Firo sings, he talks about him seeing things in a different way, that he is seeing anew with bright eyes. So it also calls us to use our own eyes. Like, what do we see? What do we see going on? Let's talk about those characters.
Yeah. Who do we meet in this movie? It's, people that we're familiar with from Wicked cut last year, and they're back, but they're changing. They're still evolving as people, and their behaviors change throughout the movie as they progress on that line of growth, personal growth.
Yeah, you see characters with different hats on. Were they popular? Are they popular? Who's powerful? Who do they worship? Who's perfect? Who's feared? Who's hated? Which people are necessary? Which ones are unnecessary? Who is celebrated? The characters are also really grappling with betrayal when they feel betrayed. And I think the betrayal is used in this way to surprise other characters, which adds growth. Like, I was very surprised when the lion cub expressed betrayal to Elphaba. I did not see that coming, even though I should have been expecting. He didn't have courage, and that's like an origin story there. But his experience of being taken from the safety of the cage without a choice, and he held that against her.
Yeah, he's a young cub just abandoned in the wilderness, basically. And how does he even know what to do as a lion?
Yeah.
He's got no role models.
Yeah. So they really show how the characters change each other's lives by their choices.
They sing a lot about how they're changing each other because I knew you, I was changed, and things like that. So it's really important that they're doing these things together as they go along and progressing with each other.
Another big theme is friendship and sisterhood. I mean, it is just like everything is woven around that.
Yeah, sisterhood. I want to talk a little bit about that, about the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda. They really love each other. You see through the story, they have their fight. They aren't always in agreement with each other, but in the end, they come back to each other, and Glinda visits Elphaba in her castle while she's being hunted by Dorothy and her gang. Glinda comes to help Elphaba, and Elphaba, she knows that she's supposed to die. So she puts this water bucket in a place where Dorothy, who's coming along, can get it and splash her and melt her. But just the two, when Elphaba and Glinda are parting, Glinda's going into that closet. They're both just standing at the door, hand on the door, for a good few beats. They're just standing there, and you can feel all their sorrow at leaving each other.
For that clock tick.
For the clock tick. They stood there for a clock tick, and Elphaba needed Glinda to believe that she died. So she really sold it, and she had to make this tough choice, this hard choice to
Another
leave
betrayal.
Oz. It's another betrayal that she fakes her death to get away from Glinda and Oz. Not that she's running from Glinda herself, but she's running from the country and this reputation as this wicked witch. And she leaves with Fiyero, who is another character that she loves in the movie. she has to transform him into this scarecrow straw man to save his life. But she still loves him, regardless of the difference between them. He loves her, even though she's green, and she loves him, even though he's made of straw.
And I think with that decision, Elphaba believed in Glinda's on-magic magic, that she had what it was going to take to make the good changes in Oz. Yes, she encouraged her to seek out using the Grimoire for good, but she knew that Glinda had the goodness in herself to step out of that closet and start to make things right in a way that Elphaba was not going to have the opportunity, even with her magic.
And some of my favorite moments in the movie happen after that. Some things that happen after the separation of Glinda and Elphaba. Glinda goes on this mission to be good and fix all the problems that the wizard and Madame Morrible caused in Oz. She liberates the animals. She goes and tells the wizard that he has to leave Oz in his balloon right away, or everybody's going to come, the guards are going to arrest him. So he has to leave. She threatens Madame Morrible to put her in a cage like they had done to all those animals.
How did you feel about the banishment?
The banishment of the wizard, I thought I really liked it. It parallels the Wizard of Oz story where the wizard leaves in the balloon and then we know Dorothy stands there and doesn't know how to get home until Glinda tells her about the ruby slippers. In the old movie, at least that's what happens. In the books, I think she has silver slippers and does the same thing.
I'm not exactly sure how I felt about her pushing him out. I mean, at this point in Wicked for Good, we're in like New Oz territory as far as story arc. So he's shipped off in his balloon, but I thought, it suits because was there really a place for him in Oz? Like all of those who were being told there wasn't a place of status for them, the animals and such. That was a lie. But the Wizard of Oz truly was an outsider, and he wasn't going to bring good to Oz, so he had to go.
Right. He had done a lot of harm to Oz, capturing all these animals. It was really powerful when Elphaba goes into that room and there's dozens and dozens of animals in cages and they're screeching and screaming, and she liberates them and they storm through the wedding. It's really wonderful to see them free, but it's upsetting at first when you see them in this dark detention center in these cages, just forgotten, abandoned, not taken care of. Who knows how much they're being fed or anything like that. It's just despicable the way they're being treated. And it's a little hard to see, but then you know that they're getting freed. And that's a really uplifting moment in the film.
Absolutely. And a fairy tale ending.
Especially, I love at the very end, Glinda is addressing the crowd as the wizard is leaving, and the animals just walk into the crowd and start mingling, and the people are okay with it because Glinda says it is good. It was just so touching. I loved the way this wrapped up. The whole last third of the movie or so, it's sewing all these threads together and wrapping things up. And I just loved the way it ends.
Me too. You mentioned the love of Elphaba and Glinda. There is a lot of romance, love and loss in the movie.
There is, Nessa loves Bach. Bach becomes a Tin Man and runs off to go, and basically he's hunting Elphaba to kill her. And Nessa is left without the love of her life, which is Bach. And eventually Nessa is killed. And that's love and loss for Elphaba, her sister, getting killed. And of course, Glinda engages herself to Fiero, basically. It's Madame Morrible and Glinda's idea to have this engagement. Fiero gets taken by surprise. This is in the beginning of the movie. And then they have the wedding later, and Fiero, he doesn't love Glinda. He loves Elphaba.
I also think it's love loss. Everything that's happening with the animals, they loved life. They loved having agency and voice and profession and being whole members in society. And that was love loss.
Yeah. Just the whole treatment of the animals, this whole enemies thing and the oppression of the animals. We can see these things that happen around the world all the time. You see plenty of examples in the past and the present of oppression and people being declared enemies just because they're different in some way. They look a little different, they talk a little different, something like that can be an excuse to use an Ozism, basically, to enemize people, to make people enemies that aren't doing anything to you, really. You need a scapegoat to blame, whatever it is. In Wicked, the wizard has this whole scheme. He's created an enemy. He's made the animals an enemy so that he can unite the humans and that they won't resist him because he's their savior against these terrible animals that are causing their society to decay or whatever he's blaming them for.
And, Oz doesn't really pick one response. They show both responses that usually come out of these situations, resistance and hiding. And it was really hard to see those who could collaborate and resist together choosing to hide because that appeared to be their only choice for them.
Yeah, Elphaba goes into the woods and she sees this chain of animals sneaking out through basically a tunnel under the yellow brick road. And Dr. Dilliman's there, Dulcibear's there, her friends are there, and she doesn't want them to leave Oz. She wants them to stay and fight.
Do you believe resistance ultimately brought good to Oz in this story?
I believe so. I believe the resistance, it built up over time. It was Elphaba at first, but then you get Glinda involved, Fiero involved in the resistance. They're all doing, either subtle things or very big things throughout the course of the movie to undermine the wizard. So I do think that it played a big role in there, especially the Elphaba going to actually see the wizard in person and then liberate those animals. She goes and she wants to open the monkey cage first and let all the flying monkeys out, and the wizard lets her do that.
I think Madame Morrible is really the highest culprit in this story and just, had the wizard fully under her manipulative control. Because I feel like if she had been present during their peace talks, those monkeys would not have come out. There's no way. So what do you think? What does that mean that he was willing to make some concessions for Elphaba?
Yeah, he seemed to be trying to manipulate Elphaba into working with him instead of against him. And so he's trying to get in her good graces to some extent. Basically, this is the compromise. This is how I get her on my side. And then I still just do what I'm doing now, but she's not a problem anymore. He wants to neutralize the threat. And he's luring her into a trap. He's got all his guards ready to come in and arrest her. So she's really vulnerable then.
Chistery can't speak yet but he has chosen a side. He's chosen Elphaba's side, and he takes her to the vault.
History resists. That's a big moment of resistance because it's getting the animals to stand up for themselves. That's really important that they do that.
Let's talk about witchcraft in the Land of Wicked. I love that we get to look at it as a hoax and as a tool for good and evil. But it's interesting. There's different aspects of witchcraft portrayed.
It's so interesting. It's not only witchcraft, but also magic as a practice, because there's different meanings of the word magic. There's different types of magic, and we see them used in these movies. The wizard is a magician. He's a performance magician. He's not a real wizard. He's got no actual power, which is another interesting thing, that the man who has the power over the land of Oz, he's got all the power as the leader, but he has no real authority coming from himself. It's all this guy's, his giant head that greets people when they come to visit him, and things like that make him look big and terrible and powerful and wonderful. It's all a hoax. But then these women have actual true authority and agency. They have abilities that the man doesn't have. So that's very interesting to see.
Yeah. A couple of the witches have natural powers. They tell us in the movie why Elphaba does have hers. And then you have Glinda. She wants it. She wants it. And she tries. She wishes with all her heart. And she does not have it yet.
Right. She takes longer to develop. There needs to be an inciting incident, basically a spark to ignite the magic that's within her. And that's the whole scene at the end where she thinks Elphaba dies. That gives her the courage to stand up for what's right. And she takes the grimoire and she does do magic at the end. Another theme that I want to go back to is fear. And I want to talk about fear management as a theme in this movie, because we see the Wizard of Oz and Madame Morrible manage the fear that the people have of the animals. They make them very terrified of the animals. So you see when, for instance, the animals come into the wedding, there's panic and pandemonium by all the people because they're so afraid of animals at this point in the film through manipulation. And then we see that goodness coming to counter the fear. And the way that Glinda, who is known as this good person, the ultimate good person, she comes in and she's able to comfort the crowd after the wizard leaves, because at this point they're just freaking out about what's happening. They don't understand what's happening to Oz. Why is the great and powerful wizard leaving? Why was there a tornado? Why are the animals coming at us? What's going on here? It's very terrifying for the Ozians.
Yeah, absolutely. They were also using posters to scare them. Just want to, that was an interesting detail. That's from the very beginning, back to the original too. But
posters, they're throwing flyers. There was the machine that just cranked out flyers and rained them down on the city, the Emerald City.
Imagine if they had technology and were getting status updates, what they would have been being told, just like what we get.
Yeah.
Posts about fear, what to fear.
Right. We see public figures come out and make addresses and speeches telling us to be afraid of different people because they're different than us.
And we're actually seeing public figures use the word witch to oppress, to scare, to label. And they're not talking about fictional witches. When they say it, they are portraying that there is a witch to fear.
Yes. It's
That's
sick
what we're
that
seeing
it
right
still
now.
happens, but we're seeing an uptick in this accusations of people being witches just for speaking out
Yep.
and, opposing these other public figures. You get called a witch, especially if you're a woman. It's like the go-to play for a lot of these men is to call women witches.
You don't have to look hard to see what we're talking about. It's right there for you.
No, just Google witch and look at the news tab and see what comes up. There's going to be accusations of people being witches who are not.
One of the pieces of the story that I love are the unexpected heroes. It's full of unexpected heroes. Fiyero is an unexpected hero.
Oh, yeah. Fiyero, definitely, because he's so shallow, especially in the first film. He's portrayed as, he does his whole dancing through life song, which is his big moment. He takes them to the Ozdas ballroom where they're not really supposed to be going on a school night.
Elphaba is a huge unexpected hero, especially with, I call it the betrayal to Glinda. And I know that it's more than that, but I can't help but be bothered that Glinda doesn't know that she's not alone. That Elphaba is really there somewhere. But Elphaba is a huge hero. I mean, we see her trying to be a hero. Her heroism does unfold in the story. And the other hero that I love is Chisturi. He's a huge hero. And these are victims coming back as heroes too. He was a victim. Elphaba was a victim, and they still choose to be heroes for others.
Right. Elphaba we know as the Wicked Witch of the West, cackling witch from the MGM movie in the 30s. That's what we know her as, this villain. Just she's one-sided in that film, and as the villain, she's a villain in the books. So people have grown up knowing her as a villain, and suddenly she's doing good deeds.
This story and film is very much a fairy tale.
You have the wedding of Glinda the Good and Prince Fiyero. Remember, he's a prince. So it's almost it is like a princess and prince tale that you get in a fairy story. And there's just so much magic in the telling of the story.
In castles.
Oh, yes. Castles. You've got wizards and witches and talking animals. It is like
mystical forest.
It is. It's America's greatest fairy tale.
Indeed.
It really is.
Yeah. These characters, as their stories unfolding, they're grappling with belief, secrets. I think those two do kind of go hand in hand, What do they believe? What have they been told to believe? What do they know? What don't others know? There's a lot swirling around there.
Oh, definitely. They, like a lot of people today, there is a strong belief in evil witchcraft, a strong belief in what's called maleficium, which is just harmful magic. We've done an episode on here about the percentage of people in the world that believe in this harmful witchcraft. And it's 40%, according to economist Boris Gershman's work on this, believe that there are curses and the evil eye and spells that can harm people. And so you see the same kind of belief in the movie as you get in real life.
And in the movie, although using the spell book does cause unintended consequences, who did we see using the spell book to harm somebody close to them? Nobody. There is a character, Madame Orble, who is using her craft to cause general chaos and havoc and, specifically targeted. That's imaginary. That's fairy tale.
Madame Morrible can't read the Grimoire. She doesn't know how to read it. And the Wizard of Oz, who has tricked everybody into thinking that he can read it, but his secret is that he can't read a word of it. He just knows some words that aren't Ozian. You see in the first movie when they go to the Emerald City and there's that production that talks about the Wizard of Oz with Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel come in, and there's in the song, there's the wizard just repeating the word Omaha, Omaha. And so it sounds magical because it's a foreign word. And he's just using these non-Ozian words to pretend to read the book. And he's not doing anything. It's all sleight of hand and that kind of thing with the wizard.
I would say the manipulation from the person who was harming Oz was because she could count on them responding to fear. But did anybody actually?
Well, Dorothy gets told that this is a wicked witch, and she goes on a mission to get the broom.
She goes on a witch hunt. Yeah.
She goes on a witch hunt with the other three characters. So Dorothy is told that this is a evil witch that you got to fear. This is the wicked witch of the West. She's terrible and terrifying. And so Dorothy goes on this witch hunt in the movie. And it's like in real life, we're always trying to differentiate between people's right to believe what they believe versus the wrong that it is to use that belief to do harm to others. So it's okay to believe in witchcraft. That's your right to believe that there's harmful witchcraft, but it's not your right to go out and hurt another person because you think that they're a witch. That's not okay.
Her hunt for Elphaba also demonstrates this equation we see in real life where it's the sum zero. She wants to get home, so she has to harm the witch. To get what she wants, which is her safety, is what will make her whole. She has to stop this evil witch who others have portrayed as harmful. Even those in her close circle, the Tin Man and the Lion, have grievances against Elphaba. So then she must be the witch. I think that really demonstrates scenarios that we have experienced here on Earth, past and present. If somebody's doing really good, that's harming me. Or if I can't get a leg up, why is that?
Yeah. Somebody else took that leg from you, got it up there. Yeah, that's that whole belief. And that really plays into witchcraft accusations because people say that guy's really successful and has a good job and a good income, but I'm struggling here. And that's not right. It means that he took something from me. We should be equal, but we're not. So he must have used witchcraft to achieve his success at my expense.
That's a false belief. People find success for real, literal reasons. Sometimes they have a skill that's better than everybody else. Other times, they've got an in somebody else doesn't have. Or they have the money it takes to make something happen that another person might not have. But it's not a curse that is giving individuals success.
Right. Yeah, we see a lot of atrocities we've talked about on this show before, ritual attacks, where people actually will take other people's body parts to use in rituals to gain wealth and power and influence. And that's not the way that things work. It's not okay to take somebody else's body part. It is a lie that is wrong.
One of the fun things that propels the characters forward are their collective hopes of a better future. Some characters in the story, of course, have very selfish hopes, but there's a lot of unselfish hopes for the future and what it's going to take to have a better future. At the beginning of Wicked, Nessa's there for a better future. She's had a rough start. You know, you've got Glenda has her bright future ahead. She's just prancing onto the stage of her life. Elphaba wants a better future for Oz, for the oppressed. What did it take for a better future?
Well, for a better future, it took removing the wizard and Madame Morrible, who were the ones oppressing Oz and keeping it from having a bright future. They were turned Oz, which is this colorful, vivid place, especially the flower fields, and it's just so vividly colorful. But they've turned it into this, metaphorically, very dark place where very sinister things are being done to the animals. And they have to be removed before the sun can shine through again.
And when the animals were under control, captured, hidden, they moved on to the Munchkins.
They did. They stopped allowing the Munchkins to leave Munchkin land. So Buck couldn't go to that wedding and nobody else could go where they needed to go. And part of this dynamic with the wizard and Madame Morrible and the wicked witches, the good witches, has to do with this patriarchy, because the man has all the power, even though he's just a hollow, empty vessel. He's nothing. He's pathetic. But he wields this huge amount of power to be able to order people to round up the animals and lock them up in cages in dark rooms. That takes like a lot of power. People believe that he's so powerful. They're so invested in that, but he's not that good of a leader. He's pretty terrible at almost everything except doing sleight of hand tricks and propaganda. But he's the man. He's leading this place, but he relies on the power of Madame Morrible. He relies upon a woman, even though he doesn't allow her to lead. He relies upon her magic, her actual abilities to be able to do anything. And so there's this very feminist aspect to the Wizard of Oz in the first place, but especially Wicked, with the women having the real power and authority and abilities in the movie. And they have the key roles. They get the most words in the songs. They're the center of the film. It's women.
Wicked is a musical. It's been on the stage, and now it's a film that's a musical.
It is. And the songs really carry the movie because there's a lot of exposition in the songs. We learn a lot of the details about what's going on through the words that the people sing. There's a couple of songs in there that stood out to me. There's this really powerful song that opens it. It's Every Day More Wicked. And it has some elements from the previous movie of the Nobody Mourns the Wicked come into this movie as well. And so all this song about Wicked really just gets me into the film. It was a good way to open it, and really the instrumentation in it is so just bold and powerful. I really love the use of the bass trombones. I'm a former trombone artist or trombonist. And that really speaks to me. But then later there's a song, they actually sing a song called No Place Like Home. So throughout this movie and the first one, they're evoking all of the Wizard of Oz themes and songs and phrases that we know by heart. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's a whole song about that in Wicked for Good. And then at the end, they're singing a song called For Good. So you start the movie with the wicked and you end with the good. It shows the whole like story arc you can trace just through the progression of the songs and the themes that they're singing about.
I also feel like with this musical specifically, and maybe not uniquely, but specifically, these duets and vocal collaborations are a way that bring these characters together at another level. You know, there's these tides from the story pushing them apart, pushing them together, pushing them apart. But when you're enjoying the parts of the story that are being sung, they're so together. And I really found that so powerful.
Their voices are so different, and yet when they come together, it's so very powerful. It really just gives you goosebumps at times, the way that they sound together, the emotion in the songs, the passion of the songs. You really feel what you're meant to feel. The music really helps to guide you emotionally through the story.
The language is also used to bring that Oz feel. So you always are remembering, even in those like intense moments, there's words used as fun.
The Aussian language is riddled with malapropisms, which basically are, it sounds mostly like a word, but one of the, the suffix or the prefix will be altered to change the sound of the word, but it still has the same meaning in the film. Like instead of saying that's horrendous, they might say that's horrendable. But we know what they're talking about, even though the word sounds a little funny.
And it brings the fun right from the gate because there's plenty in there. There's not just a few of those. It's like a prop or a character too. Words as themes are also a part that I like. They use the word wonderful so poignantly on purpose, of course, and you enjoy it. You love seeing that play on the word wonderful.
They do with the language of Oz, because the Wonderful Wizard of Oz goes right back to the beginning of the story with L. Frank Baum, who, by the way, Elphaba is named after his initials, LFB, Elphaba. But they use they use this fun phrase, a clock tick, instead of like, wait a moment. They're like, just wait a clock tick. I love that aspect to it. I've been saying that myself. It's just fun.
It's so fun. And doesn't that also like go back to Gregory Maguire's device? That's part of the opening of that story, the clock.
Yeah, what is it? The Time Dragon clock?
Yeah, the Time Dragon.
The clock of the Time Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that clock, if you go to the musical, especially the Broadway production, the clock is a big part of the staging. It's part of the set. And so this, just using that word, that phrase, evokes the Broadway edition.
And what about Dorothy? I mean, going back to the original Oz film, where she's been dreaming, she's had this whole adventure, and her family and friends are just beside her bed waiting. And how long has it been? We don't really know.
We don't, but I found it really interesting with Dorothy, how we never really got a direct look at her. It was just glimpses of the gingham dress that she wears and glimpses of the shoes. In this movie, they're the silver, sparkly, I don't know what you could call them, shoes. They're just glitter shoes. And we see them walking along, and we know that's Dorothy.
This story that Wicked is telling can't be told from Dorothy's lens. She is a secondary character.
She has to be. You can't have another main character at the point that she comes into the movie. It's, it's late in the game that she enters the picture.
Yeah. I also think the words are so powerful. And I mean the regular words, they're statements. Single words in this story can be statements. Obviously, wicked. There's so much with that word. The word witch.
Those words carry so much meaning beyond just the initial definition. There's so much to wickedness. There's so much to what a witch is. There's so many layers of that. Then on the flip side, they start using in this movie words like love and good. And you see that there's still people who want those good things in the world, and they want good for other people and for animals as well. So people who are different from them are even encompassed in this love and this wishing for good things for others.
It shows us that we here need to look past the labels to discover what makes the people around us, our neighbors, our loved ones. Look past the label that you might perceive them as.
Interact with people who are different than you. You can talk to your neighbor, even though they might look different or they have a different feeling about an issue. You talk to them. It's good to mingle with other people so that you get a sense that we're just all in this thing together. We're all humans. We're the same, except for very superficial differences.
With hopes for a better future.
Everybody has hopes for a better future. Your neighbor that you don't like has similar hopes to you. They want a better future. They're striving towards some level of prosperity and comfort.
I got to talk about the props before we finish this out, because there's so many fun props in this story. We've talked about the mirrors. I've talked about it a lot, but take the mirror imagery out of the story. It's a whole different story. These props are just really key images for the storytelling.
The hat, Elphaba's hat, there's so many layers. There's so many different feelings that you have towards the hat during the course of these two films. At first, it's given to her as a joke. It's supposed to be there so she can be ridiculed. But by the end, it has so much power to it. That's a symbol of the Wicked Witch. It's a symbol of Elphaba. Her costume represents an element of an aspect of her persona and tells us much about her. One, she's almost fearless. She's brave. We know that because she wears that hat to the Oz's ballroom in the first movie. And she's out in public wearing that hat. She uses it as a prop in the dance that she does.
And I believe Glinda takes it at the end of the story. It's in the possession of Glinda again after all this.
It's important at the end because it's part of what gives the illusion that Elphaba is dead, that her cloak and her hat are left behind, and Glinda lifts the hat and finds the green bottle underneath it. The green bottle that tells us that Elphaba is the wizard's daughter. And that's a huge moment in the film when she confronts the wizard with that bottle, which is another prop.
I have a list here of what, Josh, maybe only 25, and that's probably only a quarter of the important props. So when you're watching this film, really think about the props and what they're telling you about the characters or the environment or the context.
Yeah. Pay attention to the shoes and the broom and how it gets used, and the wands, how they're different from each other and what effects they have. And then the bubble thing that Glinda flies around in, which is one of my favorite props in the movie. I loved it when it came in the first film. I love seeing it introduced to her in Wicked for Good. It's a very fun prop.
Yeah. The cages, the forest, the trains, they're all very important. Even the darker props are so important.
We've talked about how the characters are transformed through the movie, through their personal growth, but there's some real literal transformations in the movie too. There's characters that actually change their whole form. We talked about Bach becoming the Tin Man, but what happens to Fiyero? He becomes the Straw Man because he's being beaten up and pulled apart while he's physically
Punished.
tied to a post in a field.
Yeah.
He's getting it, and
Yeah.
he has to be saved by being turned into a straw man that they can't break.
And it's interesting because he seems to have embraced his change. It brought him back to the love of his life and enables him to continue his work for good. The tragedy of Bach is his transformation took him further from everybody. It isolates him.
It radicalized him. He became a dedicated witch hunter after that, where before he was friends with Elphaba. But he gets changed, and it just doesn't go down well.
The animals are transforming back to their selves at the end of the
The animals, they're getting their speech back at the end of the film. They're getting their jobs back. Dr. Dillamond, I love seeing him back in the classroom. It's amazing.
I was very interested in Beyond Oz from the first film because I remember when Elphaba runs out from Shiz and is going out through the beautiful valley, all the colors, and she goes and goes and goes. And it really struck me in that film when she reaches the edge, how it's just beige or white. And that really means something more in Wicked for Good, the Beyond Oz, because we know that's where the oppressed animals were hiding. For them, it became a place of refuge. For Elphaba, it's a self-banishment. It's a place of refuge. And unfortunately, that is something that women and children and other vulnerable individuals in our world, for a variety of horrible reasons, are experiencing banishment right now. Millions of people around the world. Specifically, accused witches experience banishment and never get to come back.
Accused witches, they are thrown out of their communities. They're left to either wander for the rest of their lives from community to community, trying to find one that'll accept them, or they have to go to a place of refuge. They have to go to one of these places, like in Ghana, there are these places called witch camps. And they're places where women who've been banished from their communities have gathered to have safety with each other. They're terrible places to live, but they're safer than being in a community where everybody wants to kill you.
They can't go back.
They can't go back. They need to go somewhere. They should be reintegrated into society as long as they can do that safely, but they might not be able to go back to their own village ever. And they might not see their families again because of the banishment. And often these accusations come from your own family. You'd be children accusing their own mother or grandmother of witchcraft and kicking her out of the village and out of their lives.
We've talked a lot about the characters and a little bit about the actual actors, but we need to specifically highlight something amazing.
The star of the show, Elphaba, Cynthia Erivo, has made a video where she talks about the witch camps in Ghana and the need for legislation that's currently before the parliament to be passed and signed by the president of the country to go into effect to outlaw witchcraft accusations and put in place mechanisms to help the women transition to new homes, cleaner, better homes with more opportunities.
It brings awareness to their situation in their current villages, their refugee villages. I believe that will hopefully bring them better acknowledgement and resources and safety there as well. Partnering with Amnesty International like that is very powerful and important. And if I'm wrong on this, reach out and tell me. But I believe that Cynthia is the first celebrity to make a statement acknowledging and asking for support of victims of witchcraft accusations. If there's another celebrity who has done this, thank you. But I am pretty sure that it was a very historic clip that is out there on Instagram. Check it out. You can find out how to sign a petition to support the legislation. It's all right there on Amnesty International's Instagram page.
Yeah, you can even see it. We've got it embedded on one of our websites of our nonprofit organization in witch hunts. You can go to witchhunts.org and see the Instagram post from Cynthia right there. It's so amazing to have someone who's so widely recognized as her to come out and say something about it. And Cynthia's parents come from West Africa, from Nigeria, and that can resonate with people in West Africa, as well as gain attention from people around the rest of the world.
Share her clip. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Another thing that happens with banishment, entire families will be implicated in witchcraft accusations and have to leave together. We know there's a village in India that is made up of accused families that have found each other and are now living together from different cultures. But what they have in common isn't necessarily their local history, heritage, and culture, but they are identifying as accused witches and finding a life together. When we look at the witch trial history in the U.S., there was case after case of banishment. We know Dorothy Good never settled down. She was wandering the rest of her life, essentially.
She was warned out of town after town because she had this reputation from when she was a 4 or 5-year-old child that accused of witchcraft. That stayed with her for her life, the stain of the witchcraft accusation. And we know that witchcraft accusations aren't the only reason that people get banished. We can look around in this country right now, and there's this coordinated effort for mass deportations. That's another form of banishment. That's kicking people out of their homes, out of their country that they live in, and forcing them to go off into a country that they've never even been to. And who knows how they're going to be treated there and how they're going to make a living in a foreign land that they didn't want to go to.
What does Wicked for Good, Oz, tell us about good and evil in popular culture? What's happening in Oz makes sense because of our own popular culture. Beliefs about people and witches and magic.
We look around at things like television and movies, and we see these portrayals of people as being either good or evil. They're representing the extremes that in reality, people are in the middle. But in popular culture, there's a lot of vilification of people as being so wicked that they're actually evil. And we see that in life too. People get accused of being evil all the time.
And we can really take a lesson from Glinda and Elphaba that we can change each other, that we have choices to make, and that can make a better future. So my big question is, does the portrayal of witches and othering in Wicked and Oz in other pop culture stories and films about witches like this, does it hurt or help oppressed people?
Well, it depends really on the audience reaction, how audiences take the film. If audiences are seeing the very clear parallels in the film to modern life and oppression, then it can help people because people can step up and say, I want to do something about that. I want to resist and take some action.
That's very true because there really are others that are othered, and there really are accused witches. And if you want to do something about it, you may know what to do. Be brave and do what you know to do. If you're not sure, reach out to us. We can plug you in with projects and people that can use your skills and platform.
Wicked, it shows us othering. It shows us a dark reality that we tend to want to look away from. It makes us look at it, at the oppression of the animals. We have to look at the animals in the cages in that vault. We have to see their suffering and the harm. And so we need to, as responsible adult human beings, look at our world with the same lens and see the oppression and harm going on around us and do something. Speak up. Talk to your friends, your family about it. Get people involved. Find an organization that's working on the issue that you're passionate about and get involved. Have a great today and a wicked good tomorrow.